Hello everyone, it's Becca from Becca Books and Bucho, and today we are talking about all of the books I read in December. As per usual, let's start off this video with some fun statistics. So in December I read 12 books that amounted to 3,676 pages. As for genres, I read 1 classic, 1 contemporary, 2 historical, 2 horror, 1 magical realism, 3 romance, and 2 thrillers. The audience that these books were geared toward, 9 of them were adult, and 3 of them were young adult. And the format I read them, 2 of them were strictly physical, 5 of them were audio, 3 of them were on ebook, and 2 of them were a combination between physical and audio. My average rating was a 3.75. And you can kind of see how my ratings are spread across the scale in the graph, the bottom left. So we are going to chat through these books as quickly as I can, because as you know, I don't like doing this video. Sorry. Okay, so I'm just going to go in the order that I read these books. So the first book I completed in December was 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. Funny, reading a book that takes place in June in December. Polar opposites of the year and seasons. Anyway, this is a romance that follows 2 people, 2 authors. One is an erotic romance writer and one is more of a literary fiction writer. And they had this past. They spent 7 days together in June and it was life-altering for them. But they haven't seen each other since, and it's been 15, 20 years since that point. And things are coming back. Feelings are resurfacing and we get to kind of follow along with the main character. Why can't I think of her name? Eva, as she remembers her past because she is spending so much time with this gentleman, Shane, now in the current day. So there's a lot of growth that goes on with these characters because they were both in very rough situations in their young adult life. And so for both of them to be very successful authors now, it was really great to see their growth. And I think it was just like a very real depiction of real humans who really fell in love. I mean, I know I'm using real a lot, but it just felt like such a real book. I also think this trope of second chance romance really, really works for me. I read a couple of these this year and I just love them because you just know that they're going to get back together in the end, right? Because that's the whole point of the romance. And so it's fun to figure out what their romance was like in the past and then see where they've come since then, and then how is their romance going to flourish again in the present. So anyway, I really, really loved this one. I gave it 4.5 stars. The next book I completed was The Chilbury Ladies Choir by Jennifer Ryan. This is a book that my auntie Naomi lent to me, and I'm so happy I finally picked it up. This is a book about Chilbury in England, in Kent, and it's during World War II, so all of the men are gone, and the church decides that they can no longer have their choir because there aren't any men. Well, the women don't like this idea, so they decide to start their own women's choir. We just get the town gossip from these women. We read letters and diary entries and such, so it's kind of epistolary in a way, and we just get the gossip from these ladies, and these ladies really probably don't associate much with each other outside of this choir, but the fact that the choir brings them together is so beautiful and they can create beautiful music together. Basically, this book is the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, but instead of a literary society, it is a choir that is drawing the people together. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a 4-star read for me. Next up, we have a string of books that I read for the Goodreads Choice Awards vlog that I posted, and so I'm not going to talk about them much. I will just say the name and the star rating and why I gave it that. Sure. And then I will link that video up above in the cards. So next up I read Weyward by Amelia Hart. This is a historical fiction, kind of. There's 3 different timelines. We follow 3 different women in this family and see how they are connected. It's kind of witchy. It's semi-interesting, but I only gave it 3 stars, mostly because the strength that these women get only stems from misogyny and these women being abused. It was very repetitive in that nature. And so the storytelling was really beautiful and the writing was really beautiful. So I definitely think I would pick up more by Amelia Hart. But yeah, it just fell a little flat for me. So if you want to hear more, check out the blog. Then I completed The Maid's Diary by Lorith Ann White. This is a mystery thriller and more of a domestic thriller, I would say. Things happen pretty dang slowly. I only gave it 2.5 stars, and this is because of how slow it was. Right off the bat, we figure out what happens to the murdered person after they are murdered and like how the murderer disposes of the body. So we know what happens, but we don't know who is involved. And so then we jump back a few weeks and follow a few different perspectives and try to figure out who is involved in this murder. And it was pretty predictable. In my instance, I figured it out pretty easily. There was one little factor that I didn't quite get, but otherwise I knew what was going on, and because we knew what happened right away at the beginning, it just felt so slow getting to the end. So yeah, 2.5 stars for me. The next book I read was Evil Eye by Etaf Room, and this is a new favorite. It's about a young mother who is depressed and not enjoying her life, and I just really resonated with this main female character, so I gave it 5 stars. And lastly, for this vlog, I read The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. This is a magical realism time travel book about a woman who has this curse, and all of the women in her family have this curse that they travel around in time, and she is trying to break this curse. So that one was really, really good. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think I like time travel books. I need to try more time travel books. So if you know of any really good ones, please put them in the comments below. I would love to hear your recommendations. The next book, I'm not even holding these books up. I'll put pictures up, but wow. I have all of them sitting right here. I'm a mess. Okay, now I'll start actually holding up the book. I promise I'm a booktuber. Okay, the next book I completed was Heartstopper, Volume 5 by Alice Oseman. This is the 5th installment in the Nick and Charlie saga. For a long time, we all thought that this was going to be the last in the series, but the last page in this book says, Heartstopper will conclude in Volume 6, baby! Can you see that? Can you see it? So, there's going to be one more volume in which we get to follow Nick and Charlie's love story. If you don't know what Heartstopper is, who are you? Go read it. This one focuses a little bit more on Nick and his university search. It was just lovely. A lovely 40 minutes that I read this book, but I just love Nick and Charlie and what Alice Oseman can convey in her graphic novels. Next up, I read Find Him Where You Left Him Dead by Kristen Simmons. This was the group book for Merry Bookmas, which I co-hosted in December, and it's a young adult horror. Young adult usually doesn't quite work for me because I feel like I'm past that point in my life, and horror definitely does not work for me. So I said I would give this book a real try, and I did end up completing it, but the only way I was able to finish it was listening to it. And yeah, I just wasn't intrigued whatsoever or interested in the content. So I'm sorry, Kristen Simmons. It's nothing against you, but it's just not my genre or the type of book that I read. Next up, we've got Spy Family by Tatsuya Endo. This is volume 8. And I liked this one a heck of a lot. I gave it 4 stars. Oh, I didn't say. I gave Heartstopper 5 stars. I gave Finding Where You Left Him Dead 2 stars, usually because a 1 star is like nothing. I never give out 1 stars. They're usually, that would be like my DNF category, I guess. So I gave it 2 stars because it was like semi-interesting. Okay, moving on. We're on to this one. I gave it 4 stars. This was one of the better ones in the series, I thought, because it just had one cohesive plot throughout. If you don't know, the Spy Family series follows a family, a funny found family. We have Twilight, who is a spy, and he is on a mission, and because of this mission, he needs to have a family. So he fake marries an assassin. He doesn't know that she's an assassin. And he adopts a little girl who's a telepath, and he doesn't know that she's a telepath. And none of them know what each other is, except for the little girl, the telepath, because she can read minds. So yeah, this one was fun though, because we kind of change scenery. We go on a cruise ship and follow a little bit more of Yor's job. Yor is the wife in this duo, and so it was just really fun. I liked it, and it ended on a cliffhanger, so I'm excited to pick up volume 9 relatively soon. The next book I read was Royal Holiday by Jasmine Guillory. This is the 4th in her Wedding Date series. I would say they're more companion novels, but I was excited to pick up a Christmas romance, and this book was just fine. We follow the mother of one of the previous characters in the series. Maddie is the focus of book 3, I think. And Maddie gets this opportunity to go to England over the holiday because she needs to style the princess, the Duchess of Cambridge, because she's a stylist, a designer. And so Maddie gets this opportunity, and she decides to invite her mom along with, because she doesn't want to have Christmas without her mom. So Maddie and Vivian go to England, and Maddie is off working basically the whole time. So Vivian is left to her own devices and walks around Sandringham, and like that part was really, really fun because there's like a lot of, you know, royal stuff that I enjoy. Anyway, and she meets the private secretary of the Queen, and they hit it off. And yeah, they have a fun, sweet relationship. They both don't think it will amount to anything because he is English and she is from the United States. But yeah, they have fun. And that's just what I had with this book. It was a fine time, but nothing to write home about. So I gave it 3 stars. Next up, I wanted to read another Christmas, and why not pick up a classic? This is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I think most of you know the story, but Ebenezer Scrooge is visited by the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future, and in this process, he learns so much about how he is living his life and how he needs to change. It was just fun to reread this quick little novella, and yeah, I enjoyed my time. I gave it 4 stars, as I did the first time. The last book I read in December and in 2023 was Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. This was my first experience with Darcy Coates, and like I said, I don't read horror, but I had heard that this one was a little bit more thrillery instead of horror. While there is gore on the page, it's, I mean, not terribly horrible. And so I was able to stomach that just fine. This one is a 1-by-1 trope. We have a tour group who is going to a vacation in a secluded cabin in the mountains. Their bus breaks down in the middle of a snowstorm, and they have to figure out how to survive because, of course, they don't have cell reception. And when they find this little shack, people start dying one by one. And so we follow the main character as she tries to figure out who the killer is. It was good. I gave it 3.5 stars. There were moments of it where I was like super shocked, but I also had an inkling from the beginning of who it was, and I was right. So, but it was still enjoyable and a very atmospheric book because of where it took place, and it was just a thrilling book to finish off the year with. Thank you so much for watching this wrap up. If you have read any of these books, I would love to chat with you about them down below in the comments. Did you agree with me on my thoughts? Did you disagree? Again, it'd be great to have some bookish conversation with you down below. Like this video on your way out, consider subscribing to my channel if you'd like to see more bookish and bullet journaling content from me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!